Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and of course you knew I had to do video because Michael Flynn withdrew his guilty plea. So I had to do a little video to give you some of the information and to put the actual, court documents in your hands. And so as always, the links will be down below in the description. All you have to do is click a little triangle or something like that that pops open the box, and you'll be able to see all the links down there for that. So I'm going to go through it kind of fast because really, if you've watched my other Michael Flynn videos, we've gone through a lot of the documents already, and pretty much this particular document was kind of a rehash of everything that Sidney Powell has been putting together lately. And so there's not a lot that's new if you've watched my other videos. And if you haven't, I have a whole playlist that you can watch and just, click on the playlist and it will take you to all the videos that are there about Michael Flynn. So this page right here, though, this is from the Last Refuge, which is a conservative treehouse, and by Sundance, who has been doing a lot of the articles on this. You will see that they have actually a lot of the links are on here too. So if you get to this page, you can follow the links there to get to the actual documents, or at least most of them that I'm going to show you. You can also check out the actual PDFs and everything. But this is a good article. It gives a good overview. But let's go to the real document because you know me, I like to get there and see what it actually says. And so this is the real document that was filed on the 14th. And of course, they start out with the table of contents. You have all this information. And a big part of this really does give the overview of what everything is in here. And this is the basic background. And then you have the government's December 15, 2019 extraordinary production, the December report of the Inspector General, this court's opinion denying all Brady requests, and the government's new sentencing position and memo warrant this continuance. So this kind of gives you an overview of what the complaint is that was going on. First of all, the fact that there was this 478-page IG report, this has some very important information about Mike Flynn, and especially about the second agent, who is Pientka, and I've done videos on Pientka too. So if you want to see more about him, you can go to those videos. And he was one of them that actually interviewed Flynn. He and Struck were the two that were there that were supposedly in that very first interview. Well, there really is an original 302 that says Flynn did not lie. And then, of course, they doctored it and made it sound like he did lie, and that's what they've been working off of. But that 302, the original 302, has actually not been released to them. Nobody has it. And it's there because, that the FBI system has it on file. And if it was removed for some reason, whoever removed it, there's a paper trail or some kind of electronic trail or something, so they would be able to verify who did that. And that's just not been done. And that's what Sidney Powell is complaining about, because a lot of these kinds of materials, this is the Brady evidence. And the Brady evidence is any information that the prosecution, when you're dealing with the government prosecuting people, if they have any exculpatory evidence or any evidence that can possibly help the person who the government is going after, they're trying to prosecute, they have to turn that over to the defense. I mean, that's what the whole Brady thing is all about. And that's what she's been asking for. Well, they've been dragging their heels on this. And on December 15th, the government finally produced 637 pages of long-promised 302s and handwritten notes of agents. And then the court gave a 92-page decision, and the government obtained 2 extensions before filing its sentencing memorandum seeking to revise history and imprison Mr. Flynn. And it was really weird because, according to this, they gave Flynn a deadline of December 24th, after they released this, the 637-page, 302s and everything they had there. Well, the thing was, December 24th, that was kind of Christmas Eve. So Flynn asked for, I think, a week extension, but oh no, they wouldn't do that. They gave him until like noon on the 26th, or a certain time on the 26th. So they had to work over Christmas. Yeah, that's how Mike Flynn spent his Christmas in 2019. Isn't that sad? Anyway, so after they did that, then the government comes back and says, well, the holidays, we can't get back to you yet. So we're going to have an extension here. And they put him off. And so Flynn said, okay, we'll take that. But why wouldn't you give us the extension when we asked for it over the holidays? But oh no, they had to have everything from their side. They had to have it turned in on the 26th. It was just really stupid. It was games that the government's playing. And what I don't understand is these people are working under AG Barr. So what's the deal, Barr? Come on, let's get on these guys. You're the top guy. I understand that he can't oversee everything, but this is kind of a high-profile case, don't you think? So I really think he needs to get involved here and see what's going on. There's something really wrong with these prosecutors. And of course, we know that they work with Weissman, and we know what Weissman's all about. So it's not surprising that they're behaving in this manner, but it needs to be stopped. These people have committed crimes. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The government's sentencing memo dramatically changed its position, seeks to withdraw its prior motion and recommendation, and triggers the necessity to file this motion now to withdraw the plea. See, before, he had this plea, and basically the deal was, if you play along with us and you testify to the special counsel and all these things and go along with the government, then we will put you on probation and not put you, in jail for any length of time in prison. Well, now they just changed it because they want him in there for 6 months. And with his not having a record and everything, that's actually the maximum they could give him for what's going on. So, in other words, they want to give him the maximum they can. But it violates this plea deal that they had. So, this is the situation that's going on. And at this point, this Puckett, and I believe that is just basically here. I think from what I can see on this, it's just there's the test applies to a forfeited claim like Puckett's. That was this case here, that the government failed to meet its obligations under a plea agreement and applies in the usual fashion. So in other words, because the government didn't keep their end of the bargain, then it really requires him to withdraw his plea. Okay? And as I said, I'm not going through this whole thing because it just restates everything we already know. Okay? I will give you just a brief overview, though. Michael T. Flynn, Mr. Flynn, hereby moves to withdraw his plea because of the government's bad faith, vindictiveness, and breach of the plea agreement. There you go. Those are the reasons that he's giving, and I think he has every reason to do so, and there shouldn't be a problem here because he does have a case. And I hope somewhere along the line, like I said, I hope eventually Barr gets on these guys and that they themselves are held accountable for what's been going on here, because it's been bad. I mean, they have faked stuff, they've falsified documents. They have, tried to get him to testify, to lie in testimony for the Rafikian case. And when he refused to do that, then they threatened Mike Flynn Jr. And when he still refused, they ended up pushing him into this plea deal. So he was really coerced into doing all of this because, as we've talked about before, what father is going to let his son be put through all that? And so he just took it on the chin for his son, which, a good dad, but just sad that he's had to go through all this. Anyway, and then it just talks about all this, that they wanted a continuance. And I'm not sure where I read it, but somewhere, and it may have been in one of the interviews I'm going to show you in a minute, but Sidney Powell said that she was given 330,000 pages of documentation that she had to go through. That's why originally she asked for 90 days continuance, because they were going to sentence him, and then she came on as his lawyer, and it was like she got all these pages of documents dumped on her all at once. I mean, that's a lot for anybody to wade through. Yeah, anyway, this is the whole thing. They just go back and forth, and there was this certificate of conference that they got, and the government's timely response is attached as a certificate of conference. Since that conference, Mr. Flynn has instructed counsel to request withdrawal of his plea because of the government's breach of the plea agreement. So, again, this just takes you through everything that we already know, that Flynn was set up and that they manufactured things, and they've been hiding a lot of the documentation, a lot of the evidence that would prove that he's not guilty. They have been doing everything they can to try to silence this man and to keep him out of the limelight, which ironically, it's kind of put him in the limelight more, but eventually this is going to work out. Oh, here it is, right here. By August 15, 2019, Mr. Flynn's new counsel, that would be Sidney Powell, received 18 hard drives from former counsel at Covington and Burling LLP, which contained more than 330,000 documents. Present counsel has been working as diligently as possible since first appearing in June 2019. Present counsel provided the court new and extensive briefings and motions on issues important to Mr. Flynn's defense, based primarily on information the government only began, dribbling out over the past year or so, since its first Brady production of March 4th, 2018, and the Inspector General's reports. We are a small team working on a shoestring budget funded by thousands of hard-working patriots across the country who are making non-tax deductible contributions, primarily in amounts from $1 to $100 to MikeFlynnDefenseFund.com. And if you'd like to, give something for this fight, that would probably be very appreciated if you would do that. So, again, it goes on. This whole thing is nothing more than what we've already heard, because she's laying down the facts and saying this is why he needs to withdraw his plea. And so there's a file at the end. Now, it's not included in this particular document, so you'd have to go to this one to get it. But this is a whole list. It's a chart that shows all the alleged false statements they're trying to say Mike Flynn lied about this, but it goes through each one of them and says, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. So there's several of them. There's 4 pages here of these, all the things that they accused him of. And yeah, he was not guilty of doing that or of saying those things. So I'll leave that down below. You can research all those, go through it if you want to on your own. And, they're trying to really make this a big FARA thing. And we've talked about that before, that the FARA really is just not that big a deal in most cases. And there was no reason for it in this case, because he was not working for Turkey. That's already been established. And that's what these actually will tell you if you read through them. Anyway, this was a tweet that was put out today. I think it was today. Yep, January 15th. That's when I'm recording this. And this is from Lou Dobbs. Lack of justice. Sidney Powell says federal prosecutors are attempting to send Michael Flynn to prison by changing their narrative. And here's the full interview. I'm going to play you a short little clip from it, and then I'll leave the link to this tweet down below, and you can watch the full interview there.
And as I read what you have filed here, the prosecutors, in point of fact, were lying to and defrauding a court.
That's, to put it mildly. We have evidence now that they were actually trying to force Mr. Flynn to lie to a jury and a judge in the Eastern District of Virginia last summer, and they knew that's what they were trying to do then. We have a redlined document showing that Mr. Van Grack himself transmitted to Covington.
The prosecutor.
Yeah, the prosecutor from Special Counsel's task force, who's still running this prosecution because
he has a history.
Yes, he has a history. He was with Mr. Weissman on the Special Counsel operation and determined to take down General Flynn because that was their path to the president. They had to prosecute Flynn to try to pursue the obstruction mess.
Yeah, so see, she has evidence that they have been lying, that they falsified things, and all to get him to lie for them, but they couldn't get him to do it. Now, here's the whole thing. If you really want to know why this was done, you probably need to watch Dan Bongino's video from today, I think it was. I will put the link to it down below. I don't have the video up right now, but he laid it all out. And he was fuming about this, and he should be, because this is just so wrong. This is not what our courts should be. And it's been going on for a very long time. And if you watch my series on the Louis Gohmert expose of Robert Mueller, you'll see it was happening even back then when Mueller was the head of the FBI. So it's been going on for a long time. It was happening before him even, I would be willing to bet. So it's been going on for a long time, and it needs to stop. Our Justice Department has been hijacked, and it needs to be purged. It needs to be cleansed, because this is something that's very important to our entire system. One of the things that makes us different, and I was listening to a Scalia video today, which obviously is from a few years ago, but he was talking about what makes America exceptional. And what it is, a lot of people say the Bill of Rights. Well, that's not really it, because you can have a Bill of Rights, but unless it's enforced by our courts, then it doesn't do any good. Because a lot of these countries that, are out there and they're persecuting people, they have bills of rights, or they have something that says we have a right, the people have a right to this or that. But if the only rights they have are on paper, but when it comes to implementation, they don't have those rights, then it doesn't do any good. And it's having two branches of government where laws have to go through both. They have to pass both parts of it. That's part of it. And when we have conflicts between those, we have the judiciary, which allows for conflict resolution. And that's significant, because most places do not have an independent judiciary that allows for that kind of resolution to the problems and the conflict between the different branches of government. That's really what makes us special, our government. And so this is something that has to be taken care of, or our government is null and void. Because if we don't have the rule of law, if we don't have a separate independent judiciary that is not politicized, then we don't have that specialness. We don't have the exceptionalism that our Constitution was created to give us. And that's really one of the basic important factors that's going on here. This is what we're seeing play out. This has to come to a head, and it's got to be dealt with. And it needs to be dealt with publicly. Everybody in the entire United States needs to hear what has happened to Mike Flynn, and that he is going to be exonerated. When that happens, that needs to be taken care of too. It needs to be put out there so everybody knows. All right, I'm going to include this. This was another one. She was saying that basically when they were trying to force Flynn to perjure himself, which was, lie about something under oath, that is committing subornation of perjury. And just to give you a little definition of that, the criminal offense of procuring another to commit perjury, which is the crime of lying in a material matter while under oath. So if you try to get somebody else to do that, that's what this is. And so that's what she has really caught this Van Grack doing. That's what they tried to get Flynn to lie under oath. And, that's a crime too. So again, another crime these guys are guilty of. Okay, so I have one last clip I'm going to give you here, and this is just a clip that Devin Nunes reinforces that they knew Flynn did not lie to the FBI, and they knew that a long time ago. So why is it still an issue? Why did Flynn have to be put in the position he was? Well, personally, I think the reason was because they wanted to get Trump on obstruction of justice. So they needed to have something that he could obstruct. So they took out the man that scared them the most, which is Mike Flynn.
For anything.
Mike Flynn has withdrawn his guilty plea in court today due to the government's bad faith, vindictiveness, and breach of his plea agreement. What else can you tell us?
Well, we knew from early on in 2017 that Michael Flynn did not lie to the FBI. We actually put that in our report. It didn't come out until 2018 after Flynn had already pled. But there were several of us as witnesses. We also told the highest levels of DOJ that we had been briefed by the FBI that Flynn didn't lie to the FBI.
Didn't Peter Strzok come out from that meeting with Flynn and he didn't think he lied?
Well, interesting you say that. There's missing documentation that we've never received. And then to add on further to that, well, I want to make sure everybody understands this. We put it on a report, okay? And some of the things that General Flynn is saying in what he gave to the court today, withdrawing his plea, he's saying he's been treated unfairly. Remember, we put this on our report in 2018, and for some reason, it was redacted. We had to fight for what seemed a couple months in order to get that unredacted. So, we're witnesses here too. We were briefed by the FBI that Flynn didn't lie. And, I just don't see, he needs to withdraw the plea, and I guess, some of us need to speak on his behalf. Since the FBI should have this information.
Vindictive prosecution withholding exculpatory evidence. That's a real no-no, along with fudging stuff at the FISA court. So there seems to be a pattern of misbehavior.
And remember, we alerted the FBI and DOJ too.
This was all, you had a lot in your report that has all been vindicated. Congressman, hey, thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you, Laura.
Keep it up for Flynn.
So that's what I've got for you on this one. I've got this link that I will also put below, and I'll find that Scalia video and I'll put it down below too. He was testifying before Congress, I believe, and it was really excellent. So I'll make sure that I put that one down there too. But this is kind of an interesting page because it gives you the charging document. I mean, pretty much all the documents for Flynn, the statement of the offense, the plea agreement, which we've talked about, the statement by Michael Flynn afterwards. And so all of those were the basic beginning of this entire Mike Flynn saga. So if you want to go back and read those were from December of 2017. And so that's what it was all about, and that was the start of it. But again, if you've been with me for the past year and a half or whatever, you've noticed that I've talked about most of these documents anyway, and you've seen them all before. So that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.